After dipping my toes in amateur photography, I decided to buy the legendary Minolta X700. This camera is truly a big jump from what I expected. It has three main modes: program, aperture priority, and manual. There are quite a few reasons I picked this camera specifically. I liked the look, I like the fact that it has an interchangeable lens, and I like the fact that it's analog. Whenever I looked for a newer camera, something released recently, anything decent would be about the price of everything I will show you in this video. That would be the camera, two lenses, film developer, film itself, not to mention a bag and a strap. I feel like that's the better end of the deal, especially since I can learn how to develop, feel more of the process, and learn more about history. Now, I've never really been one for looks, but the way this camera did look, it spoke to me right away, and I knew that I wanted this one, despite it being used in only $191. Of course, it was after I bought it that I found out that the capacitors in it can go bad, and it is quite a famous flaw. But thankfully, we didn't have that issue. However, that isn't to say it went flawlessly at all, because it certainly didn't. However, at the end of the video, I certainly feel a lot more knowledgeable and confident. Not to mention, more in tune with the analog community, but we'll get into that point later. For now, let's unbox it and see just exactly what the Minolta has to offer. Alright, the dry fire has just worked. Now it's time to load in some film. We got some 400 Kodak Tri-X. So this isn't fully taut. I'm not entirely 100% sure, but it is hooked in on the side here, so I think it should be fine. I'm going to advance it twice and then we'll be good. So I've been through about 7 shots so far. Right after I took the first one, I realized that my aperture was on the lowest setting. It was either 2.2 or 2.8 or 1.4, so I'm pretty sure that one is almost irrecoverable. However, I quickly cottoned on to that, and we're moving on here. The goal really isn't to take amazing shots, because I'm not going to be able to do that. I have a pretty basic idea, but I'm just trying to, this is like the practice thing here, to be able to later on develop this, which we plan on doing, and see how it actually comes out, you know what I mean? And then after that process is done for the first time, we can actually move on to actually, you know, taking better shots, taking more time with it, because already I get the feeling that I should be taking my time, which I certainly am, because these are only 24 exposure rolls. I thought they were 36, but no, these are Kodak Tri-X 24s, so I am not that lucky. But I'm gonna walk around the neighborhood here, see if there are any things here in the woods I can find, and we're gonna slowly but surely try and make our way up here. I'm gonna try my best with the framing and whatnot, roll thirds, all that jazz. But I am not I'm not a professional, okay? I don't do this by trade. I have messed around with the smartphone before on manual. I have had a camcorder. I've had a digital camera. It was like 12 megapixels or something. One of those 2000s ones. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. I don't remember the exact model of it right now, but it was I have a fairly basic idea. One thing I realized right after I left is that I do not have my tripod. However, I do not plan on shooting below 60 or 30, at least for while I'm out here. So, and it's bright, okay? It is sunny. The sun is out. It is not even, okay, it's noon, okay? Sun is out, man. To me, this is sunny 16, okay? So, which is how I knew I messed up initially. Anyway, I don't plan on shooting that low, so I'm not going to do that. If I plan on doing a tripod shot, I'll tell you what, I might do a couple. I really might. Just to see. Mainly, I don't want to mess up the film. Now, I bought just about everything else that I need. But I did not buy a camera, I did not buy a changing bag. Because I have quite a few dark spots in my home. I'm going to be researching that later. I'm well aware. You should let your eyes adjust and see if there are any pockets of light at all, period, before we continue, because it's just going to be, it'll ruin it, you know what I mean? So, and even if it doesn't ruin it, there'll still be streaks. So, if there's even the slightest bit of light, I need to figure it out, stuff the door with a towel or something. But anyway, I was told that upon doing it for the very first time, you should have a practice roll. Well, guess what? I don't really have a practice roll, and of the 3 rolls I do have of black and white, I'm not sure I want to waste one of them going through this. You know what I mean? Well, I guess no, I think it actually would be a waste because I'd still be touching it, you know what I mean? So, and then if you're not doing it in the dark, then it would be exposed, you know what I mean? So it would be wasted. However, you would have the movement and you would know how to spin it around, I don't know what it would be, the spiral thingy that you turn it, that you spin it around and put it into, so you can agitate the container, the chamber, whatever you want to call it. But I'm going to be honest, I'm just going to fumble my way around, and if I can't do it, I'll come back later, because I'd rather take the shots and have the film be ready to go. You know what I mean? I'd rather do that, because otherwise it just seems like a waste, especially paying $30 for three rolls of Kodak X. I am not in the mood to throw a third of it away, you know what I mean? I just don't, it's a shame I don't have anything to practice on. Maybe I can figure something out, but as it stands, I'm not too worried. Oh, hey, check that out, them berries. That'll look great in black and white, man. Now, to be quite clear, half the time I am indeed looking inside the viewfinder. I can't hold the shutter button and show you at the same time, but whenever I do it, it shows up some red LEDs, which is how I knew the camera was just fine. Hey, that doesn't look bad there. But point is, I thought it was a capacitor issue, but no. I thought the camera was totally mechanical. No. So I was freaking out. I was like, how do I get this to dry fire? And it wouldn't do it. And then the shutter advance lever here locked up after I pulled it through once. But no, the issue was it was just out of power, because down here there were no batteries. So it was a real meme, man. We were waiting for everything else to show up today. The camera bag, the batteries, everything really. The film, for one, and the monobath. Now I know people are gonna say, oh well, you know, if you don't use the monobath, you could have more control over the process. And I agree. With my rudimentary understanding, the developer, the stopper, and the fixer, I understand you can let things sit, or and not to mention, you don't have to use the set stopper fixer, okay? There's people that are using coffee and beer to develop. I didn't even know that was a fucking thing before researching this, man. Like, it's crazy, this stuff. Like, how does that work? And then I guess it's just science, man. You know what I mean? Now, in regards to shots, I'm gonna try and get a little bit of everything, okay? As you can see, we're already getting landscapes, we're getting nature in there. I got a couple portraits, although the very first one was a portrait, and I'm afraid to bug him again because it was a total fuck up, and he already went somewhere, so I'm gonna have to wait on that. But that's even if I want portraits, you know what I mean? Because I don't know what I want. That is the problem. I'm walking around and I'm trying to decide, like, and then I have to think about it as a matter of contrast, because it is not how you and I are seeing it right now. It is in black and white. Now, I made sure to do black and white because of the temperature and simply because of the process, actually. I just don't know how it works, and I didn't want to buy all this stuff for no reason, you know what I mean? So I'm not gonna, why would you do that? This wouldn't be bad here. And one thing I want to do is properly get it in focus, but have a little bit of blur behind the subject, you know what I mean? Not just have it automatic. Who wants to do that? So ideally, it'd be nice to get, like I said, a little bit of everything. Of course, I can't get a macro with a nifty 50. I've only got a 50 and a 135. I don't know if I've already said that, but it is fairly limiting. And for wildlife, I cannot get very close. Although I can certainly try, or they'll just be pretty far away. So, but even still, there's quite a few things I can do. And really, it's just up to my imagination. Because there's still quite a lot you can do, even with just one lens, you know? One lens, plenty of creativity, imagination. Nothing wrong with that. Anyway, we're heading up there. There's a couple good shots you can get up there I know I've done before, but it's about time to do it differently on analog. Now, I guess I'll tell you a little story here about how I actually came upon this X700. I was looking for something, but I didn't really know necessarily what I was looking for. So I decided about last week, I was like, hey, I want a digital camera, you know what I mean? So I start looking into the different ones. The last time I truly looked into it, DSLRs were the thing, man. So I was like, okay, well, we'll take a look at some DSLRs. And then I started researching it more, and it turns out DSLRs are kind of aging out a little, and mirrorless are now the newest thing. And mirrorless, I guess, are pretty new, okay? And any mirrorless camera, I could find a couple for $200 to $300. Actually, no, I think at least 4 or 5. But they were expensive as shit, man. And then you're talking about the rest of the accessories, man. I don't want to have a fixed lens. I want to be able to have interchangeable ones. I want to be able to have more control over what I'm doing. So this prompted me to say, hey, you know what? I fucking love film photography, okay? I love movies shot on true film, okay? I know they're not necessarily the exact same thing, because movie film is different from photography, but it's relatively similar. And I just like the way it's looked, okay? And now that I'm doing it, I can certainly tell you, I love this process. And we're not even halfway done yet, man. We're not even through shooting, man. It's fucking crazy. My neighbors probably think I'm fucking schizophrenic, man. We don't do this shit around here, man. This vlogger shit, man. This gets you looks around here. It probably is right now, actually. I should have went somewhere else to do this fucking bullshit. But hey, whatever. And I saw this camera on KEH.com. I don't know if it's K or just KEH, because like I said, I don't know anything about this, okay? And I was recommended the site because I was told it was very good, very reliable. So I looked at the prices, $191 for an excellent camera, an excellent film camera. And then it had no technical difficulty, like things listed. It just said excellent. So I made sure to get the lenses excellent as well. And I think one actually came excellent plus. However, one thing I'm upset about is that one of the lenses didn't actually have a lens cap, but I made sure to order some anyway. The telephoto 135 did, which is very nice. It had the rear and the forward one. I don't know if those are the correct names, but it did, however, have one, which is very nice. However, I did elect to come prepared. However, I guess that shit didn't arrive today. So all in all, I spent about $400 or $500, actually probably $600 now, on all this stuff. But that's the price of a new camera, like, and not even a new camera, to a photographer, like somebody who actually does this, that is fucking nothing, man. But to somebody like me who doesn't do this shit, man, that is a good deal of money, okay? $600 is a good deal of money to me, period, man. But you got these motherfuckers dropping $3,000 on a Leica for no reason, man. Not no reason, but like to me, it's no fucking. A camera is a camera. You know that phrase? The best camera is the camera you have with you. Look at that view, man. So like to me, man, I don't care. I get it. People want to be pretentious. They want to pay for what they perceive as quality. That's okay. And who knows, maybe Leica is actually worth that amount of money. I'm well aware that they are more of a higher end. This is probably about the best view you're going to get here from land. See about some good major landmarks here, of course. Somebody who's urban, this ain't shit, but hey, you know, my little corner, you know. Fuck it, why not? There's even some traffic down there, man. Now, if you ask me, if I wasn't so, I don't know, I'd rather not be annoyed by people I know, because a lot of my classmates live here, okay? So if I walk down Main Street, man, I'm gonna run into these motherfuckers. Not to mention, I'd rather not anyway. I'm not that social motherfucker. Hey, can I take your pic? No, man, that ain't me, man. Fuck that, okay? I'd much rather, like, I'll take a whole roll of fucking grass, dude. I don't care over walking up to someone and be like, hey, can I take your pic? You know, no. No, it's different though, because if they'd ask me, I would gladly do it. But like me personally, going out of my way, I wouldn't do it, you know? It would be like for a family member or a friend. But none of these motherfuckers, man, I hate them, man. Now, as for actual lens storage, actually, I'll show you. So this is my current setup. I kept the bubble wrap for the lenses. Check this out. In lieu of anything else, I think there's enough padding in here, honestly, to be okay. Have the two lenses here. I don't know what I want to do with the camera body. To be totally on, I don't know. In that bag, that is the lens cleaning kit, which I did do a little bit, or at least I attempted anyway. But yeah, that's my current. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, because if it does get jostled around, if it falls, you know, they could potentially pop out. I don't know. Uh, I don't really, to be honest, I don't plan to be like fucking jogging or doing acrobatics with this fucking thing. You know what I mean, man? So I don't think they're gonna do that, but I should still plan for it. Anyway, the bubble wrap is what I have for right now, because I don't know what you would do with your lenses. You know what I mean? Like, there's got to be some extra shit you do, man. Because I know, like, already I bought so many fucking accessories, like just so much shit, dude, and it doesn't end. You know what I mean? Like, you just do this shit, and and like it's a money sink. So I wanted to avoid that. I wanted to get the basics. I was like, yeah, man. We'll get the basics to get set up, to develop, to shoot, okay? And that's it. That's all we're fucking doing. And because there were more accessories I could have bought. I could have bought some flash, okay? I bought a camera strap, but they didn't fucking send that to me, I guess, okay? Sure. I already had a tripod to begin with, but I didn't bring it. It's fine. It's not late, again, it's not late after. It's daytime, man. But if you want to see more of this shit, I could scramble together another video, but maybe in color in a couple months, because I plan to keep this black and white film for a while. It's like I don't want to burn through it for no reason, just taking random shots. Now, if I feel it is necessary to do it, then I will, of course, yes, but I don't like I want to have every picture be as impactful and really roll the dice on whether or not I can actually get them to come out myself. You know what I mean? Like, it could be lost to time if I fuck it up. It involves care and precision and dedication. It's not just, I'll whip out my smartphone and fucking, yeah, man, because I certainly can. This is an S22 Ultra, man. I certainly can. 100 megapixels, something like that, 120, 150, something like that. Man, 100 times zoom, even though the zoom is actually, it gets more and more grainy the more you go. I'm just saying. It is a perfectly fine, serviceable digital camera. It will more than likely serve the purpose. It's like we said, the best camera you have is the one with you. Yeah, well, in regards to analog to film, it would not be as impactful, okay? It is not something physical you can feel in your hand. Not to mention, one thing, shooting with a smartphone, with a digital device, shows you differently. So you can tweak the ISO. You can, it visually shows you on screen what you are doing. Now, with something like that, there's a little bit more guesswork involved, okay? You have to know how to expose. You have to know not to underexpose. You have to know what you need for your current conditions, how fast you want to be, how slow you want to be, okay? There's just so much care that goes into it. It's unreal, Like, it makes it more impactful, more personal, okay? It tells a story. I'm not saying a regular photo doesn't tell a story, but you know what I mean, dude? Anyway, here's a neat little bit of trivia for you. While I was waiting for everything to arrive, I decided to do a film survey. Now, what does that entail? That entails sending this to a lot of different social media sites: Discord, Reddit, 4chan, Facebook even, okay, man? And it was actually kind of hard to find places that wouldn't just ban you instantly for advertising. There were a few gripes about because people wanted to answer multiple things at once. But I've never done a survey before either myself, so to be honest, getting 75 responses, 72, 73, something like that, I'm perfectly happy with that. My original goal actually was 100, so I'm actually quite satisfied with getting 3/4 of the way to that goal for my very first survey, with a moderate amount of effort. Now, there are quite a few things I could read,
I feel like it is more. I feel like it's better to show you.
As you can see, there's actually plenty of responses here. A bunch of pie charts. We ask why they like it, what their primary use case is, why it feels meaningful to them, and look at all these responses. We ask their experience level, and this is quite interesting because a lot of people are between intermediate and hobbyists, with only about the same amount being professional as there are beginners. Not to mention, we talk about the moment they realize they like film, if they develop it themselves, if they prefer black and white or color, and the biggest drawback. Some of the things they've written in are as follows. It's an art form that relies on physical media and feels like a fight against AI and cloud-based subscriptions. The time I spend finding the right composition knowing I have max 36 shots per roll makes me feel more close to my work. It makes the photos feel more special. I like the weight and uncertainty in technical challenges. Maybe I'm just afraid of digital because it shows me how talented my photos inherently are, with no equipment to blame. But I like it. Because it's something my parents did. Because when my mom talks about the past, she can point to pictures and albums. I feel like it would be sad to lose this. It's final and limited by its nature. Can't just go out and shoot 500 frames in an hour like on digital. You have to put thought into it and commit, without knowing the outcome. I grew up with it. It's a connection to my past, and maintaining connection to my past is one of the pillars of existence for me. And as for the moments they discovered they liked it, I was in elementary school and fell in love with the darkroom process. This is another thing for me. I definitely want to try that at some point, but I've got to mess with black and white first. The time I was a little girl and went to my grandma's house and saw the 5x7 camera her mother used. It's over 100 years old, and I've been using it for just over a year now. Studying it up in the city and having people ask me questions makes me so happy I can keep such an old medium alive. I started getting into camcorders and capturing moments, and loved the feel of having a dedicated device that wasn't my phone. From there, I got really curious about film and jumped in with an AE1. Never did any photography before this, so I really enjoyed getting to learn, still learning, about different shooting techniques, color theory, composition, and the ways to use a camera. In any case, if you want to add to this survey, look at the responses. It'll be in the description for you.
It's very interesting to see the pie charts, to see just how it falls, because a lot of them said they feel like it is slower, it is impactful, it is more meaningful. There's a lot that goes into this, man. I mean, it is a community. They are pretty vocal about their experiences because, as it turns out, about 50 of them, 75% of them at least, that's a ballpark estimate, wrote in, okay? So, in other words, they feel so strongly enough about this that they're not only going to do multiple choice, but 75, 80% of them decide to write in. And the actual questions for those, by the way, were, please describe the first moment you fell in love or realized you loved film. And there were quite a few touching stories there. I'll show them to you right now. And then the other one was, damn, I don't remember actually. But there were two written open-ended responses. And the responses themselves are really cool. And then, of course, drawbacks being developing as well as pricing. But that one, I think that one, pricing really just won the most there. But that makes sense, okay? And another question was, do you develop the film yourself? As well as, do you prefer color or black and white? Now, before, black and white was actually winning, but both of these actually go hand in hand, which is really cool, man. I thought everybody would be sending these out to people and paying for that, which they do, of course. Half the survey said they do, but I'm just surprised. Like, I thought it would be more of a landslide and not half and half. Not to mention, we see color photographs every day, man, you know? I'm honestly surprised to see that black and white is still so appreciated, which is very, very interesting to see. Anyway, just a little bit of trivia for you to see where the analog community stands, which I thought was pretty fucking interesting, but if not, hey, fuck me, I guess. I might get a little bit more footage here, some more shots, but I don't know if I'll record that for you. Anyway, more likely than not, we will move on to the actual development process once I feel confident enough to give it a try. Once it gets dark enough too, by the way, so it gives me plenty of time to get my extra shots. And then we will develop, or at least try like hell, hang it up, and fucking see.
It's a bit of a status update. I finished it off, and whenever I was reeling this, the bag popped open for a second, so I'm sure that at least a couple of the later shots are now toast, but that's okay, as long as I get even really one exposure out of this. You know, it's the practice roll. I don't really give too much of a fuck. We'll find out, but I didn't really hear the sound that you were apparently supposed to hear, and this did get a little bit tight, so I'm not sure if it rewinded all the way. But I'm going to turn off the lights here, and I'm going to get everything set up first. Turn off the lights, open this up, and if I can get it into the canister and whatnot, you know, submerge it, we can get the lights back on and agitate it. So we have a couple different things here, and also a bag. The funnel, of course, and I suppose that there's the actual monobath. Now it says here 75 degrees Fahrenheit, intermittent agitation over 4 minutes, so I might actually even go for 70. Temperature tolerance plus or minus 2 degrees Fahrenheit. And of course it has the thing up here, you tally for knowing how many rolls you have developed with it. Alright, I've got this going on. I'm honestly not sure. I guess we'll find out. I kind of doubt it, but we will see. So, I mean, honestly, it didn't go as bad as I thought it did. Of course, it ended in failure. However, I was actually able to thread onto the reel. I felt it get taut and begin to thread onto it, which was great. I was happy about that. I suppose it must not have been totally dark, or... No, actually, I think the issue was that I don't think I diluted the monobath enough. It's okay though, it's whatever. I think it is actually a great opportunity. Since I didn't order a changing bag, I can get one of those for about 15 bucks and then maybe get a couple more Kodak Tri-X. Because honestly, it was pretty fun. I don't care if I messed up the end part. I mean, we were gonna have that Gambo anyway, you know what I mean? But I've got the rest of the stuff. And if I do get a bag, I won't have to worry about completely sealing everything, you know what I mean? It'll be a lot more contained, and I actually feel a bit more confident about that. And now that I know what to expect, I feel a bit better, of course. Initially, I was under the impression the X700 was a totally mechanical camera, and that it could fire without the batteries. However, this must have been wrong, because once I did eventually get the batteries, which are SR44s, by the way, which should be the actual batteries you should have. LRs work at a pinch, but SRs are supposed to be the superior version. In any case, I popped in 2 of those, and it worked just fine. The LEDs in the viewfinder lit right up, and the shutter came to life. One thing I end up mentioning later is, it is a little abrupt from digital to analog. However, it's not unwelcome. I've always enjoyed retro things to a certain extent, and film has almost made me learn the basics of photography all over again. I end up taking the opportunity for a good walk, deciding to switch out the lenses about halfway through the roll. Not to mention, switching around the modes just to get an idea And of course, it's always better to overexpose than underexpose. I was initially also going to get a 28-85 adjustable lens, but that didn't happen because, well, I just forgot what I was picking. So I ended up with two primes, which is just fine for me, as long as they're not the same size, and they both arrive in excellent condition, which they did. Despite the development not working for various reasons, I still feel like I have a bit more knowledge about the entire process, not to mention how to load it onto the reel. Now, I'm not gonna lie, it was certainly a little disheartening to see the film come out the way it did, and it made me have second thoughts about whether or not to upload this at all because it is indeed the end product, but only the physical version. And I got to thinking about that. It was always a gamble to begin with, because even if the film did come out, whether or how I've shot it might determine whether the shots are even viable in the first place. In the end, I've surmised it's like riding a bike. Nobody's going to be perfect their first few times. They're going to fall, they're going to skin their knees, but eventually, they will understand how to ride the bike. It just takes time, practice, trials and error, really. Not to mention, getting into this hobby, or at least getting back into it the way I have, has allowed me to connect more with my family. What began with a simple question led to us discovering loads of Polaroids, a couple quick snap flashes, and even some potentially undeveloped rolls of color. In the end, it allowed us to reminisce. So it was doubly impactful because I didn't get to just learn about myself, but about my family and where they came from. So it's not just the history of the camera, but the history of us.